Alrighty, so today we are going to start looking at converting between these different types of things we've spoken about, our percentages, our fractions, and our decimals. And as I said before, they're all useful in their own right. And we use these different types of tools for different purposes. Now, what we're going to do here, I will preface by saying you can always do it with your calculator and it'll be a lot quicker and more accurate. At least, well, you'll know you have the right answer. But this video is just for someone who would like maybe a more intuitive way to look at working through these. Now, we said, I'll redefine it, that percentages are some number expressed as a fraction of 100. So usually these aren't too problematic. So say I had 17% here. Well, I can represent this, as we've seen in previous videos, as a fraction of 100. So 17 over 100. Now, I can also give you this number. I can say, okay, well, I have 75%. And that is a fraction of 100 is 75 over 100. But this answer isn't its simplest form, is it? It's not. It's an equivalent fraction to something possibly smaller. So that implies that, well, we can have some common factor top and bottom here. So our 75 over 100, well, we can see that 25 goes into both of these. And it goes into our numerator 3 times and into our denominator 4 times. So I've gone from here to here down to here. And this fraction is 75% in its simplest form, 3/4. Now, those are all good, I'm hoping, but what happens when we start getting more problematic percentages? And I'll show you one, for example. So here we have 36.5%. And because our percentages, fractions, and decimals are 3 distinct tools, we don't really want to mix these together, do we? We kind of want to keep these as separate as possible. So when I convert this to a fraction, I want this to just be a fraction in its simplest form. I don't want to have decimals in my fraction. So converting this first into a fraction, well, this as a fraction of 100 is 36.5 over 100. Now, once again, I'm mixing tools, aren't I? So I have a decimal on my numerator, which I don't really want. Now, there's a couple of ways we can work through here, but I will go through 2 here. So if we wanted to just say, well, I just want to get rid of this decimal point. Well, we can multiply top and bottom by a factor of 10, because multiplying by 10 will clear this decimal place here. That will leave me with 365 on my numerator. And whatever we do on the top, we do to the bottom. And we'll be left with 365 over 1000. Now, obviously here you can plug this into a calculator. Even here you could plug just that into a calculator and you would get a simplified form. But I have a 5 here and I have a 0 here. So I'm guessing that 5 will likely be a factor in both of these numbers. So I'll divide the top by 5, divide the bottom by 5. And here I will get 73 over 200. Now, how could I have gotten here a little bit quicker? Well, let's have a think. I could have, let's take another method here. Let's go with another approach. So my approach 2, well, I can also clear this half, this 36 and a half or 36.5 by just multiplying it by 2, because 2 halves are going to make a whole. So multiplying this by 2, I'm going to multiply the whole portion as well as the half, the 0.5, and that will give me a whole number. So writing this again, I get 36.5 over 100, and I can multiply top and bottom by 2. Because that will get me a smaller fraction than the one that I had here. And it'll also clear my decimal up here. So what am I going to get left with? I'll have here 36.5 multiplied by 2. That'll give me 73. And 100 multiplied by 2, oops, getting ahead of myself. That'll give me 200. And this is the same here as well as here. So we can work with these uglier percentages, these ones that mix decimals and percentages. We can work with them to get a fraction in its simplest form. So let's work on one more example here. I have right here that I want to express 1/4% as a fraction in its simplest form. Now, once again, I'm mixing tools. I have a fraction representing a percentage. We can convert this to just a fraction, to a nice fraction. Now, I personally find it easier to, whenever I'm converting to fractions, I will express this as, let me get another color here. I'll express this as a decimal over 100, because 1/4 is just 0.25 as a fraction of 100. Now, in this case, there's only one way to really clear my, oh, actually, no, not necessarily. There's 2 ways. Let's go 2 ways again. So let me get this to, let me just multiply this by 100, because that'll bring my decimal point along 2 spots, and I can just clear the decimal. There's less to worry about here. Let's do it this way first. And multiplying top and bottom by 100, I will get 25 over 1000. Now, 25 goes into 100 4 times, so it'll go into 1000 40 times. So we can divide top and bottom by 25, and we will end up with 1/40. Now, let's try this another way. See if you, because you may have watched this and thought, well, there's actually a simpler way, and there is. So let's change color on this side, and we'll go that, well, 0.25 over 100. How can I get this numerator to a whole number? Well, we can say that the lowest whole number we can get it to is just 1. And we can do that by multiplying 0.25 by 4. 0.25 multiplied by 2 will give me a half. And then we'll need another 2 sets of 0.25 to make a whole. So instead of going through all of this, now this for some of you may be easier because you'd like to just multiply by 10 or 100 or 1,000 and just get it to a nice whole number, then simplify from there. But I find this way on the right may be a bit quicker and could also save you a lot of time working backwards like we did here. So I can say that I can multiply 0.25 by 4 to get an equivalent fraction. And that will give me 1 over 400. Now, you can see where I've made a mistake. And some of you may have picked this up. And I was thinking it looked a bit weird. But I forgot to add a 0 here. Because multiplying by 100, 100 by 100 will give me 10,000. And when I simplify that, we have 25 goes into 10,400 times. So I even messed myself up here. And it's good for you to see me struggle as well, because sometimes this method, when you're dealing with all the zeros, it can get a little bit confusing. And I was able to check it by doing this here, by going, well, I have 4 lots of 0.25. If I take 4 lots of 0.25, that will bring me to the lowest non-decimal value for my numerator, my lowest integer possible, which in turn will produce the fraction in the simplest form. So I hope that helped, but this is how we convert from percentages to fractions. And in the next video, we will look at going the other way, converting fractions to percentages. I'll see you there.